Okay, this is the easiest 8-way Minecar track switch you can build. Now first, you can see the sheep is going down to the 4th position. I can rotate the item frame selector. Now you can see he's going down to the 7th position. What I really want to concentrate on is this switch. I've built it above ground so you can see everything here. And what this does is it breaks the signal down with an item frame selector. When you go 1 through 8, you're really only moving the signal 1 block at a time, and what this does is it skips. So position 1 lights up right here, position 2 will light up right here. Then when you hit to a 3, it charges this block and this repeater lights up. So that's how we skip there. Then when you hit to a 4, it actually goes to our next comparator, which maintains that same signal going in as it does coming out. So of course that charges up this redstone down here, and that's how we skip the next block, and so on. So you really only need 3 comparators to build the chain here, and we're able to make a very compact switch. Now in a minute here I'm going to grab the materials and show you how to build it and show you a couple different variations of it. Okay, so let's kick our sheep out of this Minecar real quick. We'll turn on our activator rail. Now, we're selected on position 1, like I said, so this is lit up. So this switch is not selected. So it catches and it sends it to the 1st position. I got back in. Anyway, when we move it to the 2nd position, the switch is flipped, so we skip that, and then we get kicked out the 2nd position. We switch it to the 3rd. Now we can see the next switch is activated, so we skip again, and so on. Now, on the returns track, this is stationary. It's always shaped this way, so it never matters what track you return on. It always will take you back to this, the correct track. Now we need to keep in mind that this only works in 2 directions. So you want it to spit the tracks out to the south. This way is the south. The switch kind of faces to the west. So when you're down here at this end of your track switch, you would be facing the sunset. That has to do with the way switches are turned on and off in Minecraft in the direction, their natural state as far as the off direction and the on direction. That's why these stations will only work if they're built in the correct orientation. So we need to start facing the west over here. But we're going to start out with any old item frame switch selector panel, where you put the comparator on the block facing out from this block, and it's taking a signal off the sword here based off of its rotation. The more you turn it, the stronger the signal gets. Now we need to break the signal up so that it's not always, I don't know how to explain it. We need to get our space in between our signal strength here. This will always be a 1, so we can't use that as a switch because it's always going to be charged because there's an item in the frame. But next we'll have a 2. When we hit to 2, it's going to light up this repeater. Now when we get to 3, we're going to have another block right here. When we get to 3, it's going to charge the block, and we can suck the charge out of that with this repeater right here. Now, when we get to 4, we're going to put dust on top of here. When we get to 4, that signal is going to reach all the way up here. That's where we're going to have another comparator. That comparator is going to pull the same signal from the back and spit it out the front. So what are we going to do here is we are going to charge this block, which will charge this dust at the same signal that's going into this comparator. Now we can put a repeater right here facing out. There's our 3rd switch. Now to go to our next jump, we need essentially to What's happening here is we're burning off one extra signal strength in between each comparator. That's why we have to charge this block first and take a signal off of it, and then charge the next comparator. Because if you don't put this pattern in there, it's going to space you out 2 blocks in between each selection, and then your train station has to be twice as long. So that's where this pattern comes into play. That's how we can make it this compact and light on materials. So let me continue here, and I'll finish building. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we're gonna need 6, 7. Hold on, I'm autosave. Okay, when we get down to the end of our pattern and we get to our final switch here, which is going to be like our third pod, I guess you could call it, out. When we hit number 8, it just matters that it's the maximum signal. We don't really need to put another comparator because we're not carrying that signal on. We don't even need a repeater right there. We can just put dust. And that should be sufficient enough for the 7 switches that we need, because number 1 is always lit up. Number 8 will always be our maximum, and that's why there's one extra loop of track down here that doesn't ever need a switch, because it's the final destination, so to speak. Okay, now when that's all built, we should have something that looks like this. And now we can come down here and test it. We're at position 1. Now as soon as we click it, the first repeater should light up, and it does. Now the next click should light the next repeater, and it does. And so the third will do the third. 4, 6, 7 charges the dust that we don't need a repeater for, because we're already getting a strong strength right here. Strong signal right here, excuse me. Okay. Now that's working. Now we can start laying down our tracks. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to position 1 and we're going to start our return tracks first, a couple blocks away. It's just easier to build this section first. Then you can slam all these rails in and it doesn't even matter. They'll straighten themselves out the first time you cycle through the switch. So we're coming along and we turn. And I like to put powered rails first. Gives you a little boost coming back in and sending you down across all the return switches. So go powered, make an L, powered, make an L, and then 1 past the last switch, because that's our last destination. Now this is the easy part. I just put a powered rail in between each switch. Whoops. Put our steel coming back. Now we can put steel here. I start making this. We can stick all these in and see how it kind of set itself already. So basically we're almost done. We just got to power up these rails. Now since we are building this whole switch on the surface, we have to charge it up this way. At any rate, you can see the tracks flipping. So now we're at, I don't know, position 5 or whatever. So we're going to skip, 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 skip. And then this one's not lit up. So we're going to catch and it's going to send us off. Okay, so here it is, basically the switch. And from there you can create your own destination stations. And I'm going to do some videos on arrival stations and Minecar collection stations. I'll show you some examples of how I've incorporated this real quick. Okay, so here's one example of one of my bases where I have the switch buried. You can see the first output right here, and then I just piggyback that down underground, And then I can also charge my rails underneath, and you can't see anything but the rails and the switch on top. And for my arrival and departure station, I've got that fully automatic and closed. You can't see the departure behind these blocks, but as soon as you get into the Minecar, those blocks pull away and off you go.